Hi, this is Shanker, and today I'm going to talk about the planets which are responsible for shares, the planets by which we go into the share market, the planet by which you do trading, the houses which are important for that, what you should see when you are actually, what makes a person invest. If it is destined that you will invest, you will invest. And it's always a phase where you make money and you lose money. So there is always a gain and loss. And then there are people who have habits of speculation. I mean, those who go for futures, options, the derivatives, and so many other financial instruments are there where you are counting on somebody else's money. And then there are people who borrow money who put in shares. So all this are things which are important, and I will try to explain you both which are the planets which are responsible and which are the planets which make you to invest, and which are the houses which are also very important, the same thing. For me, when you talk about shares and talk about investments, and I will make this video in Hindi also, because there's a lot of demand of video in Hindi, so I will make this video in Hindi also. And the most important planet which deals with cutting commission paper is Mercury. And along with Mercury, the planet which I feel, and this is my experience, which is very critical, where a person earns commission, then it is Ketu. Because Ketu is also a planet which cuts. So when you're talking about finance, you're talking about how you divide your money in a particular portfolio. You have 10 rupees, how you divide that money into 5 portfolios or 5 areas or 5 buckets, whatever you can call them. Then you also have this of taking money from one area and putting it to another area. That is the second part of it. Also, you say, okay, today this part of the business which is dealing with shares, and when I talk about shares, I'm using the word shares, but take it as portfolio management, where you say, okay, I'm going to cut this. I'm going to cut this in part of the way I'm going to trade. I'm going to do it in the other part of it. So second planet which is important is Ketu. Mercury and Ketu, I feel, are very important planets which make you to invest in paper and to get a return on paper. I mean, that is one thing you have to test and see it. Also, an important planet which plays a very critical role in this whole gamut of activities, of course, is Saturn. Because without Saturn, if you have to do anything big, you have to have a Saturn either strong or weak. But Saturn plays a very important role in the whole gamut of activities. The planet which also amplifies everything is Rahu. So Rahu, whenever it is with Saturn or with Mercury or with even Venus, it will amplify your getting into various, making you certain investments. Never forget that as Saturn is, I said, important for profession, for whatever you're dealing, the work you're doing. Suppose your work is a part of your job is shares, then Saturn is important. Second important planet is Mercury, because it deals with paper. Anything which you get top up, which is run of the mill people who are selling day trading, what you call, where you invest in the morning and get money in the evening. Again, that depends, the volumes would depend. There, Ketu plays a very important role. A very high activity, a limit activities which is done in a very big form is done by Rahu. I mean, Rahu is a planet makes you to go ahead of what your means are. I mean, that is where when you go for borrowing, when you go for doing other things. Now, the way you borrow, the way you take money, and the way you execute this whole activity is done by Mars. So Mars also comes and plays an important role. Never forget Venus. Venus is a very important planet which in the Kalpurush is a lot of second and seventh. And second is, the accumulated money or the finance which a person has. So when you're talking about hedge funds, a very large amount of money which is going to get invested in a particular stock, share, etc., that is governed by Venus. And seventh is partnership. So when we talk about huge amount of money coming together as a portfolio with the partnerships of a lot of people, then Venus plays a very important role. So Venus is again a very important planet. Sun and Moon. Sun is a planet which is, of course, deals with government, and it also deals to some extent with your strategy making. How you strategize also. Sun is very important. Strategy on a larger perspective, and your guts, which you have, in terms of whether you can take it or not. Mars is also important, but Sun is very important to that. As far as Moon is concerned, whenever Moon comes into a configuration, that Moon is a planet which will bring you into a situation where you would be cheated. And that cheating doesn't mean that you would be cheated by somebody else, but you would be cheated by your own thinking of your analysis towards the stock market. The first combination comes into my mind is Mercury, Moon, but I'll talk about it later. The houses which play a very important role are the second house, which is finance. Now, 12th house, I give a lot of importance as far as shares are concerned, because 12th house is of giving. Now, people condemn 12th house, but you have to give. When you give also means investment. So huge investments that people do, and especially when you talk about FIIs, wealth funds, etc., that kind of money, international money flowing in, which I've talked, then 12th house plays a very, very important role. Money which is secretive, which is not known, from where it is coming, from where the flow is coming, etc., is seen by the 8th house. Money which is put by a person who is doing service comes from the 6th house. And money which is done by a lot of calculations by particular individuals, which we call retail investments or share, is by the 3rd house and the 5th house. 3rd house is, doing a lot of, spreadsheet, etc., and 5th house is, then coming to a particular conclusion on things. 5th house also plays important in the big, larger scheme of things. So today, when we talk about these things, the first important thing is, if you have to look at the funds which are coming into the country, into the nation, and the foreign investments, which is collated by a lot of people, individuals, which has money of good, bad money, ugly money, money which comes into the country and buys shares, will be governed by Venus. Because Venus, I told you, is the lord of 2nd house and is the lord of 7th house. So 2nd is finance, 7th is partnership. It is also connected with 8th. Venus always gets connected with 8th house when it's connected with 8th, and Venus gets exalted in 12th house. There's a natural connectivity with 12th house. So whenever Venus comes into play with Mercury and Ketu, that is the place where you have to look into your shares. Now today, when we are talking about today's situation, Venus is getting into pieces. It is in the 12th house, retrograde. When it becomes retrograde, it is going to become very, very dangerous. Venus retrograde, or retrograde planets do not give good results, especially when a planet, when it's exalted and retrograde, will not give any good results. So if in your Kal Purush Kundali or wherever, if you are into this, and if Venus, when it is getting retrograde, and it is also getting in touch with your Mercury, Rahu and Mercury or Rahu, either or, and be careful. Be careful of any big investment you have done. Especially in the same way, when we are talking about commission money which is going to come, look at where Ketu is. Ketu today is in the house of Virgo. So those people who have, planets like Mercury, Mars, Moon in the house of Virgo, there when they get impacted with Ketu, they will have to do distress selling, distress giving away of money. So what you have to do is, let me also explain in a way which is very simple, is that whenever Venus, which is large fund, gets related in your chart with planets which is like Mercury, Rahu, or Ketu, and it energizes them. If you are into investment of huge money, be careful. B, those who are dealing with paper money and at a slightly lower level, that these huge funds which are coming from abroad, then you see how your Mercury is getting impacted by Rahu, getting impacted by Saturn, and getting impacted by Moon. Moon is a cheat. Moon is, when Moon comes there, it is a planet which cheats, which a planet which actually puts you into a problem in its own calculations, because Moon is not a good calculator. It is a thing which goes by intuition, by impulse. It's not like Mercury. So whenever Mercury is there and it is in your natal chart, gets in touch with Moon, Venus, Saturn, these planets get interacted, get excited. Be careful with your portfolio, with your money. Especially, they should not, and then the houses which are important, I've told you, is 2nd, 6th, 8th, and 12th. Similarly, when we talk about Mercury, which is, I've told you, is the paper money, Venus, which is the large money, huge money, and they're getting impacted, you're bound to lose money. When these planets are getting impacted, even with Saturn, which is negatively placed in your horoscope. When I say impacted, means they're getting energized by Saturn. Now, energized by Saturn means it could be conjunction, it could be third aspect, seventh aspect, eighth aspect, Mars, fourth, seventh, eighth aspect. Like that, you have to see. If your natal horoscope, Mercury, Venus, or Ketu, they are getting impacted or energized by planets like Moon, Rahu, Saturn, and Mercury is also getting, in your horoscope is retrograde, connected with the 2nd, 6th, 8th, or 12th house. You should be very careful, because this is a time when you will lose money, when you can lose money. This is a time where astrology can help you in explaining to you. When I tell you, please do not be in panic, do not sell, because these things could pass off, and they would pass off. That is where an astrologer can play a good role in explaining you how to deal with your money. So just look at Moon. When Moon is transiting in your horoscope over the planets Venus, Mercury, Mars, Rahu, and Ketu, and then see the impact, which are the other planets which are getting impacted, which are the other planets which are looking at it, then you will see there will be problems. Now, the 29th March, as we all know, all planets are getting in the house of pieces. All the planets are also, actually all 9 planets are looking at Virgo, because Jupiter also, and even Mars also from his 4th house. So these 2 planets, if you have planets in these houses, then and if you are dealing with shares of any kind, and if these two signs, that is the sign of Virgo and Pisces, tend to fall in the 3rd, 6th, 8th, and 12th house, then you please be extra cautious. So this is what is important here. And then you have to see how the planet moves, how the transit moves, because the transit in pieces of planets are going to be for a long time. And there is also a conjunction of Saturn and Rahu and Saturn are a very close conjunction to each other. So whenever a Saturn and Rahu are in very close conjunction to each other, Saturn and Rahu are good friends in a way. But here, when they get into a close conjunction with each other, and you have planets like retrograde Venus, retrograde Mercury, etc., which is happening over the year, which I will keep on explaining in my short videos when they are getting retrograde, etc. When they're getting retrograde, this Saturn and Rahu, which can give you a lot, actually takes away. So what you be, this is the most important thing. The tip which I want to explain you is that this conjunction, people may tell you it's a great conjunction. Some people have all kind of things with it. But the issue is, when this conjunction happens, ahead of it, if the planets like Venus and Mercury become retrograde, then you will lose money for sure. Only thing is, they should be in third, sixth, eighth, and 12th. Second, sixth, eighth, and 12th. That are the most important houses which are there. And those houses, when they get connected to your Virgo or your Pisces sign, then you as an individual or you as a businessman should be very, very careful in dealing with your portfolio, because this is the time of repaying back. Venus says that you made a lot of money from me, I will take it back. Mercury says you have made a lot of money from me, I will take it back. These planets which are retrograde, which are becoming retrograde in pieces, they will say that I will take it back. Whatever you've earned, now you give it to me. What I say is, it has given to take. So those also who are having a good run in the last 12-15 years or something, I mean, I'm not saying again for all the houses. Look at the sign of Pisces, look at the sign of Virgo, look at the other planets which are there. And if your, say, Mercury, your natal Mercury is getting impacted by a retrograde Venus, be careful. If your natal Mercury is getting impacted by Moon in transit, be careful. If your natal Ketu is, or the node is getting impacted by the retrograde Mercury and retrograde Venus in pieces, be careful. So you have to see these planets in transit, which are there in pieces, mainly in pieces, and how they are playing upon your other planets. And all planets will have an important thing. When the planet 12th to it will make you lose money. The planet which is second to it may make you to do something by which you will adjust your money. Suppose you're going to lose money in your shares, or there is a tendency, the markets are going that way. Then the planets which are 12th to it will make you lose money, but the planets which are second to it will make you to readjust your portfolio. The planets which are 5th to it will make you do a strategy which could be a long-term strategy. Planets which are 7th to it are surely going to make, 7th is always the house and opponent. So the planet which is 7th to it will, make you to do negative. So you take these two transits, superimpose your horoscope on the transits that are going to happen on 29 March, because it's a very simple transit where 6 planets are in pieces. Jupiter and Mars are looking at Ketu in Virgo. So it's a very simple transit planet. Superimpose your natal horoscope on that, and then see how the retrograde planets are impacting your natal planets. So it is these retrograde planets that are going to make you the loss. Saturn and Rahu have made the field that this activity will happen. How much will happen will depend upon how the retrograde planets which are there in pieces are going to impact your natal planets, and their relationship will be, one will be able to judge the quantum of money which you will lose, which you will either realign or you may gain. So these are 3 things which you have to see by looking at the planets in pieces and your natal planets. And of course, Jupiter and Mars and Ketu, which are there. Are Jupiter, Mars and Jupiter and Mars are again looking at the sign of Virgo. So so if you do this and try to work it yourself, see it yourself, please do. If you can't, do consult an astrologer who understands how the play takes place and doesn't scare you. That's important, and that is where astrology comes into picture. It does not tell you your destiny, but it tells you a trend where you can be more cautious, because a certain amount of free will is always there. With this, I end my video. Contact and consult me on 98187 33,000. Thanks. Bye for now.